Pues a todos, mi nombre es Carlos, yo y Moisés. Sean bienvenidos a este nuevo capítulo que vamos a empezar ahora, que se llama ComicMania TV. Y el día de hoy voy a entrevistar al doctor Travis Langley, o sea, that's him. Y el día de hoy vamos a hablar de algo que está muy cercano a mi corazón, algo que me penetra en lo más profundo de mi ser. Y obviamente me refiero a Batman, el Caballero Oscuro. Como todos ustedes saben, yo conocí a Batman a los 3, 4 años y estoy totalmente enamorado de él. Y obviamente vamos a hablar ahorita de la psicología de Batman. Desafortunadamente, para ahorrar tiempo, todo va a ser en inglés, pero yo sé que todos ustedes saben mucho del idioma nórdico llamado inglés, entonces no necesitarán traducción, pero si tienen algún problema, lo que sea, díganme qué pregunta le hice que quisieran saber más y yo se la traduciré en el programa de ComicMania, como todos ustedes saben. Y ahora sí, es tiempo de hablar un poco acerca de la psicología de Batman. Hello, doctor.
Hello. How you doing, Carlos?
Pleasure to have you here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, you wrote a few books. One of them is called The Psychology of Batman, right?
It is Batman and Psychology, A Dark and Stormy Night. That one I wrote completely myself.
Yes.
The current books, The Walking Dead Psychology, Psych of the Living Dead this summer, and Star Wars Psychology, Dark Side of the Mind in the fall. Mm-hmm. I've got other geeky psychologists contributing chapters, so we're mixing things up and having a great time. A lot of work and a lot of fun.
Well, that's one of the things that it's kind of hard to explain to other people. Like, I like to call them civilians, other people like to call them muggles. And I do refer to people that don't know about comic books and don't care to know anything about comic books, which is very sad. But even though comic books started, at least the superheroes started out very simple, they possess just certain iconic traits from way back when, from mythology, from the old heroes, from the old stories. And over the years, all these writers have contributed to the psychology of all these characters. So Batman started out as one thing, just like a Dark Avenger, and over the years he's become a tortured soul, a man who's at one point looking for vengeance, another time looking for justice, a man trying to prevent crime from existing in the world, particularly in Gotham City, and then in a much broader scope. Now, all this time, people have always wondered, is Batman crazy? Is he psychotic? Is he a man just so tortured by what happened to his parents that he cannot rest until all these things happen?
He definitely cannot rest.
Such an interesting character. So could you tell us what was your starting point, if you will?
Well, I was born. People ask, when did you discover Batman? It's like, when did I discover the sun? I've always loved Batman. Batman has endured for all these years. You know, even at the point in the 50s, when superheroes comics had gotten to the point of only 3 superheroes having ongoing titles: Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman. They were it. All the others had gone away for a while. Batman endures, and for different reasons from those others. Batman is the superhero with no superpowers. He is not the impossible hero like Superman. He is the improbable character that feels possible. We want somebody to stand up and do the right thing. We see these scary things in the dark, and we want someone to help. We want to be able to help ourselves, but when we can't, we want to know that somebody, even somebody among the people in the darkness, can stand up and help them do the right thing. Batman appeals to people on so many different levels. You mentioned these characters started off very simple.
Yes.
And at the very beginning, yes, they tapped into the essence of what worked in each of these characters, and those things remain. There's certain aspects of Batman that have always been there. You know, if you go too far away from those basic elements, well, that's not Batman anymore.
You mean as what they're doing with DC right now, where it's not Bruce Wayne, it's Commissioner Gordon, and he's wearing an armor?
Yeah, so for people, that's not Batman. That's Commissioner Gordon wearing armor.
Yes.
Even if he's using the name Batman. So, you know, that's not Batman.
Right.
You could conceive, whereas you could conceivably there could be a later generation that you actually thought of the person as Batman, but it's pretty critical to Batman that, you know, he is Bruce Wayne. His parents were murdered in front of his eyes when he was a child. Even the Adam West TV show, silly as it was, touched on that. He is dressing up like a bat to scare evil people, or to scare criminals, in order to... His motivation is one of the things that varies a little as he's writing a story. As he's usually written, is to keep other people from going through what he and his family went through. Now, there's this motivation that some will see as the main thing of he's doing it in order to take out his anger. You know, every thug he slugs is a substitute for the criminal who killed his parents, and that's there too. But he's usually written the first thing is to to protect others. If he had a choice between stopping this criminal and saving that person about to fall over the edge, he's going to run save that person. The Punisher would go after the criminal. But Batman's first thing is to protect those innocent people.
You said something very important right now. It's something that I always touch upon when I talk about Batman. Batman refused to go to a shrink. He refused to go to a psychiatrist to tell him his problems and to work through the pain of what happened to his parents.
Right. He doesn't want to work through it. It's
motivation.
He is channeling it in a very particular direction. One of the big things people want to bring up with Batman and discussing those issues of crazy, because crazy is not the technical term, of course, post-traumatic stress disorder. That's a thing people bring up very frequently. And I'll walk through the symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder when I use Batman as an example. And he has certain symptoms, definitely. He re-experiences what he went through, he has stress and drives related to that. He doesn't have the full set of symptoms, though. For example, he does not show avoidance symptoms. He does not avoid reminders of what happened. He does not avoid crime. He does not avoid dark alleys. He
surrounds himself with it.
He surrounds himself with it. He is doing more of something we call post-traumatic growth. He's showing some post-traumatic symptoms. For example, dwelling on it more than other people. But he's taking those things and finding his purpose in life. He's making meaning of what happened. And no, he would not give that up. Honestly, he would feel that that was the selfish thing to do, to go to therapy so he could work through things and feel better. He would feel that that was selfish.
Do you think he has survivor's guilt?
Yes, very definitely. It's a very common thing. It doesn't even have to be logical. It's a normal thing to feel some guilt for having survived something when other people did not. To feel like, surely I could have done something. And he has a lot of things in his head, always having wished he could do something. Daredevil as a character is driven by more guilt than Batman. If you get into the stories, he's got a whole lot more of that guilt even than Batman does. Superman is not a guilt-driven character. Superman got raised by the best parents on this planet to grow up to do the right thing for the sake of doing the right thing. Of course, this cynical age, people have a little trouble believing there will be those people who step up just to do the right thing. Let's have tragedy in everybody's, because it works for Batman stories.
Yeah, but which is very kind of silly, because Batman is a great character, but he's not every character. You need a varied set.
Yes.
Because the darkness is defined by the light and vice versa.
Yes, like in Star Wars. I love talking about Star Wars too.
Who doesn't?
Well, I mean, there's with Superman, Batman, and Luke Skywalker. There are these individuals who they all have hope. Superman, he's full of hope for the human race and others. He believes that this world deserves protecting. He believes that people deserve a chance and that he should help. Batman has hope, as cynical as he seems in a lot of ways. He has enough faith in human beings, like in the movie The Dark Knight.
Yes.
He has enough faith in humanity that he believes two boats full of scared people will not blow each other up, and they reward his faith. Luke Skywalker, his compassion, his humanity, there were aliens as they do, we use the word human, but his hope for Darth Vader, his feeling that somebody has something inside, some light in that darkness, and he sticks to it. And when Ben Kenobi hears that Luke doesn't think he can kill Darth Vader, Ben, who has lost hope, says, then the Emperor has already won. But Luke sticks with that, and he does, and it finally inspires Darth Vader to step up and do the right thing. A friend of mine, Matt Langley, who's involved in this hero construction project, he made a comment one time off the cuff that a villain is not the opposite of a hero is not a villain. The opposite of a hero is a bystander, the one who lets the bad things happen. Spider-Man has a different level of different kind of guilt altogether, because his inaction, his being that bystander, gives him a guilt where he can see very logically if he had just tripped that guy, his Uncle Ben would be alive. and it taught him, it's like, you should do the right thing in the first place. Bruce Wayne's guilt is the guilt of someone who was a child who couldn't have done anything. Spider-Man's guilt is different, and he learned that hard lesson about being the bystander.
You mentioned hope, how all these characters, especially Batman, even though he's cynical, he's dark, he does have hope. Now, when it comes to hope, I like to think that in Batman's case, it comes from without, in the person of Robin, which is why I think Robin is such an important part of the Dark Knight saga. He needs that humanity that Robin gives him. He needs to see through the eyes of a child that he no longer permits himself to do it. So he needs Robin to help him out. That's why he's so bright colored.
Yeah.
So
you're right. Robin is a visual contrast and a personality contrast. And immediately when Robin appeared in the comics, Batman's own behavior altered. You're taking this fatherly role with the kid, and you start seeing Batman smiling in comics, and have a little more fun with what he's doing while still doing the very serious mission. Robin is an important contrast to humanize Batman in a lot of ways. That first year of the comics, writer Bill Finger wanted Batman to have someone to talk to be able to interact, to reveal more of the character as a person.
there was like no Alfred.
There was no one. Alfred doesn't come along until a lot later. And in many ways, Batman fulfills that role more these days than Robin. I think I said that wrong. Alfred fulfills that role more these days than Robin. But at that time, Robin gave him someone to talk about, someone to care about, look out for each other, work together to do this thing. And we got to see all these other things that, you could, in terms of looking at a human being, these qualities would have already been in that person, but now you get a chance to see them because of him interacting with this individual. First you can go, it's like, there he is endangering a child. Well, every character who's been a Robin over the years is somebody who already has some ability. Dick Grayson has the acrobatic abilities and some motivation. Dick Grayson was eager to do what he could to get the killers of his parents caught. He was going to run to the police, and Batman, in a particular town they were in, Batman said, "No, if you go to the police in this town, you'll be dead by morning." That's in the very first story back in 1940. And Robin
38, right?
Correct. And Robin wants to partner with Batman, and Batman hesitates for half a second, and then it's like, and he says, it's like, my parents went through this too, and it reminds him of what he went through. Robin, in so many ways, represents Batman's hopes for others and himself. Where he part of him wishes he could have had an easier passage to adulthood himself. He wants to help this kid have an easier passage to also fighting the good fight, but without having done it feeling quite as alone and isolated as Bruce Wayne did as he was growing up.
And I think this is just an important part of the Batman mythology. And it works even in stupid movies like Batman Robin and, what was it, the Batman Forever?
Batman Forever with Val Kilmer, and then the abomination known as
Batman
and Robin with George Clooney.
But yes, and I hate the movie. I saw it many times because, of course, I'm a Batman fanatic.
I've seen it 4.
I saw it 4 in the theater. But the thing is, I think the dynamic duo really works.
Yeah.
And they help each other out. And even though the movies are horrible, that chemistry works. And of course, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but in Dark Knight Rises, it's even better because Batman has lost hope, and the new Robin
and he's
appears.
alone.
Yes.
He doesn't even have Alfred.
Yes.
And so for that spell, you're seeing what he's like without the others. When I talk about the Batman stuff in chapter 2 is which Batman, so I go through the history of all of them. Yes. When I'm going through those films, when I get to Batman and Robin, I even have a note. I said, okay, it's so short of psychological depth. What you have to do there is take a step back and look at what you were talking about, Batman's growth over those films, from the Burton films through the Schumacher films. It's in the very first Batman film, he's got his mission, but he's even more alone at the start of Batman Returns. Batman, he's trying to engage in society more. He's throwing a party at Wayne Manor. At the start of the second one, he's sitting there in the dark, just waiting for the bat signal for him to get up. And
never thought about it that way. Without Batman Returns, without the bat signal, without a mission, he's no one.
Yeah, because there was nobody in his life except Alfred, and in that fatherly role, who can't fulfill every personal need in the individual's life. He opens up to Selena over the course of that movie, and then in the next one, he resists the partner. He brings in the partner. The fourth one, the Schumacher film, it grows. He accepts this Batgirl into it. So over the course of it, he has opened himself to more people. And last one, he's open to the possibility of this whole Bat family, a new kind of family for him.
You know, it's kind of weird. Usually, comic book fans, you know, we see something we don't like, we immediately detest it. We say it doesn't exist. But sometimes, when you love a character so much, you find a way to see something of value within the crap.
Yeah, it took me a bit with Batman and Robin.
It took all of us.
But what I do is, if you look at you have to step back and see the art to do it. But it's there. You might not agree that that's what should happen to the character of Batman, but you can see that.
But it happened all in the comics as well.
It happened. It goes
50s.
It goes back and forth in the comics.
Yes.
He'll shut everyone off. And it's like, oh no, I need to let this person back in. Okay, I have a Robin. Okay, Batgirl, and it grows up until okay,
right.
And then the publisher goes, okay, the Bat family's too big. Too many people know him. He needs to make everybody mad, so it's back to him. So it cycles.
Right.
And there are individuals who they'll shut themselves off. They'll cut themselves off from other individuals, and then they'll open back up, and they'll open back until they kind of pass what is a certain level of comfort for them. It's like, oh, this is too many people, and they kind of escape again.
Now, I must ask you something that's very specific before we run out of time.
Yes.
2 comic books.
Yes.
Where the psychology of Batman is very important.
Killing Joke and Arkham Asylum?
Actually, I was going to think about Killing Joke and Batman the Dark Knight Returns, because in Arkham Asylum, they concentrate more on the evil characters, on the bad guys, and we can be here all day just talking about the Joker. But in those 2 specific titles, there are certain things that I think that happen to Batman in Batman the Dark Knight Returns. Him not being able to go out and be Batman, not being able to punch criminals, to work through that pain, to work through that anger, has turned him completely loony. Yeah. Batman has the reason that he's so violent at the beginning, the reason that he's looking for death, that he wants to almost commit suicide.
It's there in that story, yes.
But it's not because Batman has lost hope. Oh, actually, yes, it's because he has lost hope because he's not been able to be Batman. He's not been able to be that beacon that he always was, same as in Dark Knight Rises. So what do you think that is happening to Batman on a psychological level after he cannot be Batman and has to go through that stuff?
Yeah, I actually read about Batman Batman the Dark Knight Returns. Yes. Originally just Batman the Dark Knight. They added the Returns later on. Yes. I read about that more than Arkham Asylum. Arkham sounds like this dream thing. You got to get archetypal to really look at it. With Batman the Dark Knight Returns and Killing Joke, you're looking at what this character needs in his relationships with others and how he's affected. And with Frank Miller's very dark approach of where would he be if he can't be Batman, there have been other versions, stories of a Bruce Wayne who has quit being Batman. You know, the Golden Age Batman, the Earth 2 Batman, marries Catwoman, yes, becomes a police commissioner, and found a different way to fight the good fight. Mm-hmm. Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns Batman did not find a different way to fight the good fight. Like say this last Batman movie, The Dark Knight Rises, it's ended with he has left. You know, earlier on, he's withdrawn. He's gone several years without being Batman. He's a bit mopey. He's reclusive from other things. It's touching on some of that same stuff with Miller. It's like that's who he is. You know, that old Golden Age one, when he becomes a police commissioner, the wealthiest guy in town becomes a police commissioner, instead of running around.
Makes all kinds of sense, yes.
But instead of running around in a cape, he found a different way to be Batman without the cape. So for these films where Bruce Wayne is now off in Paris somewhere, spoiler alert, how The Dark Knight Rises ends, Bruce Wayne is off in Paris somewhere with Selena, he will reach that dark place if he doesn't find some other mission, some other way to achieve good. And I think he can, as he's being depicted there. You know, earlier in the film he's withdrawn, he's let himself be so alone because of moping about Maggie Gyllenhaal's character dying, which is out of character for the comic books. People repeatedly die in his life. It's never made him quit being Batman. But for that version, and he was getting worse for cutting himself off. Not just that he was away from people, but that he wasn't finding a way to do the mission. So maybe with Selena with him, they can find a new way to do a mission. Maybe without the bat costume, but still some way to be Batman. He thinks of himself as Batman. People ask me, who's the real character, Bruce Wayne or Batman? To me, it's a false dichotomy. They're the same person. Bruce Wayne is Batman. There's the Bruce Wayne playboy, bored, front, okay, the socialite, which, okay, that's clearly not true to his heart, but there's also the extra scary Batman who can't show that he's hurt because Batman has to be more than a man. Okay, well, that's not exactly him either. There's an act there as well for a purpose. You know, when we see him at his truest, you know, might be when he's down in that bat cave, you know, with the mask back, but the costume still part on.
Yeah.
He's there, ready to work on the mission, but he's speaking more honestly, you know, with Alfred or maybe whichever kid is in the cave at the time. It's still serving the mission, but talking honestly about it without putting on any of these acts.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like with me, and of course I'm not a psychologist, so I wouldn't know. But I always thought they were completely separate. That he is putting on a total act when he's Bruce Wayne, and Batman is the real person. But now that you mention it, yes, when he takes off the cowl, he has the costume.
Yeah.
He's in the middle ground.
Yeah, it's like he's Batman, but Christopher Nolan viewed it about like I do. Michael Eastwood, who produced the movies, his view is that Bruce Wayne doesn't exist. And then whatever entity was Bruce Wayne died there with his parents. My view is a little closer to Christopher Nolan's. Think about it as a three-part character. There's the Batman act, the Batman extra scary act.
The one that speaks with a deep voice.
Yeah. And then there's Bruce Wayne, which a lot of people are talking about when they say which one's the real character, that Bruce Wayne act. And then there's the real self. But in that Bruce Wayne act, there's very truth in a lot of things that he does. He's still very charitable. He's still, you know, supporting the police and speaking out about gun control and helping the underprivileged. So there is truth in the Bruce Wayne. We tend to just think about the guy who's walking in with two girls on his arm, but there are other things he does in the Bruce Wayne role in his life.
It's such a complex character.
I love thinking about these things.
It's so
very
sad.
Obviously.
I know, but it's so sad that if you sit down to talk about Batman with someone that loves Batman as well, you could be there sitting for 20 hours straight.
I know.
Just going on and on, going through the stories.
That's why I had to fill a book with that stuff.
Yeah, we will talk about your book before we leave because I mean, and how people can get it. That's the most important part. Also, about specifically certain scenes in Killing Joke.
Okay.
There's, as you well know, people don't know. I'm going to explain it. Really
He did
quick.
not kill the Joker.
There you go. That's all I needed to know. Because, of course, Grant Morrison has said.
Well, I've seen the script. Yeah, I know what Grant Morrison said.
And I totally disagree.
Grant goes off on all kinds of tangents. Grant is wild and creative and smart.
Yes.
And accidentally stood me up once.
Oh.
He was going to join me on a convention panel.
Oh,
He
so
showed
sad.
up at the end of the panel instead of the beginning. Grant relies on other people to know things like time.
Right.
But I know he said that, but I've seen the script, and the artist, the colorist, have said it's like no. You really look at the position of Batman's hands. They are not near the Joker's neck. They're shoulders.
Yes.
He did not kill the Joker. See, I knew your question.
Yes, yeah, because it annoyed me to no end because I respect a man like Grant Morrison. I think he's a very bright man, very smart man. The way he works with his stories, just so totally out of time. They have to like read something from the 50s to understand what's going on. And I think he's a very smart man.
He is.
But when we said that, I lost most of the respect that I had.
Well, it's how he saw the story. It's what it was meant to him, and that's how. He misjudged where those hands were on the Joker.
But it's a very sad state of affairs when a man this smart does not understand that the character of Batman will never do that.
Well,
because he may want to, but just like you mentioned in Dark Knight, he has hope that things will get better.
Although I don't think Grant Morrison's version of Batman would kill the Joker.
Right.
I really feel like he sees that Alan Moore was writing it that way. I don't think Grant Morrison thinks, but Grant Morrison, his Batman laughs more than a lot of other Batmans. Grant Morrison's Batman will look at the better side of Gotham. So I don't think Grant Morrison sees it that way. I think he thinks Alan Moore sees it that way.
Yeah, not only that, I mean, you mentioned the Batman family. The Batman family grew to its, most under Grant Morrison.
Yes,
it's a whole corporation, a franchise of Batman.
So I disagreed with Grant, but I wasn't disappointed in him. I think he was disappointed in Alan Moore.
Well, I was not disappointed in that one more. I think it's one of the best stories.
It is a powerful story. I read it differently than the way Grant read it. I read it like you read it.
Yeah, because I don't think Batman would ever do that. And not only that, also because his friend asked him not to. And because
It was very important. It's like, do this by the book. We can't let the Joker win, which we really see resonate in the movies too.
And now, I know I'm opening a huge check and the enormous abyss where we can never get out, but I need to ask another question. This is about the Joker.
Okay.
This is another thing that I've discussed with a lot of people, and it's about the Joker's sexuality.
Oh, okay.
I believe he's totally asexual. He only has one thing that gives him satisfaction, and that's torturing Batman. He doesn't have a sexual desire for him or for anyone. He only needs or only wants to torture him. There's a horrible scene in Killing Joke where after he shoots Batgirl, he gets her naked and starts taking pictures. I believe he only took the pictures, and that's it. That's more than enough psychological torture for Barbara's father or uncle, depending on which version you believe. But everybody that I know, especially in Mexico, which is a really sad state of affairs, they all say that he raped her, that the Joker raped her. I don't think that would happen. I don't think he has that desire. What do you think?
Well, that's one of the things about the Joker.
Yes.
The Joker defies diagnosis. We don't know what goes on inside his head, and I think it's best that way. Some people said, would you ever do a book on the psychology of the Joker? It's like, we don't know what's going on with him, and we don't have enough on relationships with other people for the kind of book, for me to fill the kind of book that I do. I think it's best that we don't know a lot of things with the Joker. The Joker is open to interpretation a lot of the ways. I see the Joker as an asexual character. Frank Miller saw the Joker as an asexual character. You know, Miller said that to Joker, something like sex is life, and that's anathema to him. And so, no, I don't read it. Denny O'Neil, who was the editor at DC Comics and over the titles at the time, you know, he said it was a way that it was left open to interpretation. He saw it as being deliberately left open to interpretation. So I don't think there's necessarily a real answer there. It's Heisenberg's cat.
Well, the way that I think about it is, if you see rape there, it talks more about your psychology instead of the Joker. You know, it sees that what you would do in that position.
Well, not what you would do, but what you're afraid someone else would do. Or, you know, it's, you know, it could be what you're afraid of, or what you're afraid of interesting, or it could be something that made somebody feel even more deeply for Barbara, or just the world of their experiences, what they see people do.
I just want to talk about this all day. I'm so sorry.
I'm having fun talking about it.
Me too. Well, sadly,
They might be getting tired of us, but we're having fun here.
I have my radio show.
Yes.
It's 2 hours and a half long.
Oh, okay.
And sometimes I can't get through all the questions.
Yeah.
So I have to do like a podcast to answer all the questions. And sometimes I go for like 5 hours.
Yeah.
And people have asked me for a 24-hour show. So I guess, thankfully, all the people that listen to ComicMania, they love talking about comic books and they love listening about comic books. But
well, thank you. Thank you all.
I would be remiss if I would not tell my audience where you can get all your books.
It's easy to
tell us
find.
the title and where we can get them.
Okay. Batman and Psychology, A Dark and Stormy Night is the one I already wrote by myself. This summer is The Walking Dead Psychology, Psych of the Living Dead.
Yes.
The official release is August 4th, although it's already out at Barnes & Noble.
Okay.
And this fall, Star Wars Psychology, Dark Side of the Mind. And next spring it'll be Game of Thrones, and next summer Star Trek.
Oh, no way.
But for this year's books, well, they're all available online, just all over the place. I've checked. I've made sure that you can order them online in Mexico, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Books a Million, Walmart. It's anywhere you get books online, and every bookstore I've checked with, Barnes and Noble, Books a Million, and others, they each try to keep 2 copies. However, they sell so often. When I've gone by to sign one, it's like, oh, we're in the process of getting our 2 new copies. So online is often a more reliable way to get it.
It usually is, and we just got Amazon in Mexico, so you'll be able to get them. I think it's a great book that you've done, because just talking about the Batman has more depth. That's always been one of my missions in life, because a lot of people just say, oh, he dresses in black, so he goes out at night and he punches criminals. You cannot just put Batman in a hole
No,
so tiny.
There were other characters 70, 80 years ago that those things, they're not the ones we're still talking about all this time later. Batman has so many other things to him. That's why he has endured.
Now let me ask you something. Walking Dead is huge now here and also all over the world, especially in Mexico.
It really is.
Just quickly, because I don't want to hold you up anymore. How do you talk with the psychology of a zombie? Are you concentrating on the survivors? Yeah,
we're concentrating on the survivors. Yes. Although one guy contributing to our book wrote a chapter on the neuroscience of zombies. What parts of the brains must be active for them to be doing this activity? What part must be active to be driving? The hypothalamus must be doing this for them to feel driven to eat. So one guy did that. All the other chapters are about the living people. Even the title, The Walking Dead, Robert Kirkman has made it clear. He's not talking about the walkers. He's talking about the living people going through these difficult situations, walking through existing without fully living. And it keeps coming up, I don't know how far along you're on the series, but this character Bob, telling another character, it's like, why are you just trying to survive? Surviving in order to do what? And they address this issue of what does it take to keep your humanity? What does it take to live more in horrible situations? There are people who live in terrible situations in different areas of the world. It's not a zombie apocalypse, but some people do have to struggle to survive. Some people do worry about a tyrannical government or other immediate dangers to their lives. Some people do live in fear all the time, and that relentless stress affects them in a lot of different ways. Some people it brings out the worst. Some people it brings out the best. And to me, the interest in what brings out the worst and the best, especially the best, I'm really interested in heroism. What brings those things out in people throughout all these books? I'm not just looking at any old random popular culture thing. I'm looking at what makes people the best people they can be. Where does it come from? And we don't always know where it comes from, but how does it manifest? How does somebody who starts off looking like just this ignorant redneck who's mad about his brother being chained to the roof, grow and evolve, and Daryl turning out to be just a very heroic character, always a bit of a follower to somebody, but he has these strong heroism qualities. The abuse survivor who then loses the abusive husband and eventually suffers other losses as well, who emerges as a strong, heroic character. Also, she suffers a lot of PTSD symptoms, not as obviously as certain other characters like Sasha, but Carol shows a full set of PTSD symptoms, just not the same ones Sasha shows. So I can talk about things like PTSD with Batman, with The Walking Dead, and when I'm talking to students or others about this, they'll realize some different things about the characters. It also teaches them that PTSD is not quite what they thought it was. We can talk about trauma, survivor guilt in each of those stories, certainly. And
what was her name? Michonne.
Michonne.
Yeah, she has to walk around with her boyfriend and her brother-in-law. For what eternity? She's carrying her sins with her.
She's carrying her sins with her, and spending more and more time away from people, and people who've been in isolated situations, like someone who gets, put in, isolation in prison, someone who gets stranded somewhere. They have greater difficulty with social skills, and Michonne has trouble opening up to others. She's been with Andrea all this time in the TV version, and Andrea says, it's like, you never talk, I barely know you. Michonne looks hurt. She's had some very strong feelings of connection and bonding with Andrea. She feels like she's been as open as she can be, and over time we see more and more openness from Michonne. It takes time. A lot of people are like combat veterans. Combat veterans, a lot of them respond very well to The Walking Dead. They've been through horrible situations, ongoing relentless stress, and they come back to this world where, eventually some people around them might get tired of them, and it's like, get over your PTSD, come on, you're here now. And a show like The Walking Dead can open up dialogue. So where this person who doesn't get what the vet went through, they together can talk about what a fictional character is going through, and that can sometimes give them a little more insight to what the veteran went through.
Because they're watching what this character is going through, and then even if they're not living it, they can get a closer understanding.
They get a closer. They see the private moments of these characters that you don't see with other people in your lives. They see experiences, they feel for them, they want this character, they're invested in that character. Sometimes that distance from the fiction helps us look at it better. You know, when I teach a horrible subject sometimes, you know, my forensic psychology class on the psychology of crime, talking about real crime victims, and some of the subjects can be so unpleasant, it's kind of hard for a student to listen to the point I'm making and think about the humanity, or people want to demonize the criminals. They want to demonize the villains and not see as like, there's a human being there. And that might never be better. This might never be a better person, but it's still a human being with layers, and there's greater complexity there, and the victims. You know, understanding for victims, you're looking at real victims. Sometimes the feelings for them can be so uncomfortable that it's hard to listen to what we're saying about the victims and how they're really affected. If you're looking at the fiction, that filter of fiction can make, or you know, think of it, or a window. You know, it's like you're from the outside looking in, and you're seeing them in a different way.
And of course, I'll be really remiss if not, I didn't ask you about the psychology of Star Wars.
Star Wars.
And I know I'm opening a huge can of worms with you. You won't be able to stop, and I won't be able to stop because I love Star Wars. Just quickly, how do you concentrate on the bad guys or the good guys? The arc of certain of the characters, how they change throughout the series? Do you concentrate on the books? Do you concentrate on just the movies that are supposed to be the canon? And do you talk about, of course, the light side and the dark side?
Now, almost all the movies. It depends on what the writer is saying. So with the people writing these different chapters, so it tells like, remember, most of the people who are reading this book have not read all the same things we have not seen every single one of these. So if you have a point and you can make it using the movie example, stick to the movies. There are a few. There's one who was talking about Princess Leia's heroine's journey, and she pulled some things from some of the novels about Leia growing up that let her talk about some psychology and Leia in a way that nothing from the movies would let her. You look at the movies, okay, it's 6 hours of people running around shooting at each other. Okay, there's more to them than that. They don't have the time for the smaller, slower stories that a television series or a book series or a comic book has. But it's there. You often have to look past the adventure and the running around to see, okay, what kind of person is doing that thing? There's some references to the animated series as well, when it lets them tell something they can't tell any other way with the film. So with that, we really concentrate on the movies. In terms of the good guys and the bad guys, well, the movies themselves concentrate on very broadly on the main characters who are a mix of qualities. We got to have a whole lot on Anakin Skywalker / Darth Vader, who I still have a little trouble buying that kid became Darth Vader.
But the way he's portrayed in those movies, yes, it's very hard to believe that he will become the greatest villain of all time.
Part of me thinks is like maybe some ancient Sith spirit possessed the guy after he put that armor on.
Now see, that's a story. I'll buy that.
I can buy that. In which case, we could get some Darth Vader again sometime. I say, and then at the end, it's like when Luke reaches the compassion, the light inside, the darkness touches on the person. No, he's free from whatever that was. It's like, okay, then Anakin was the one who ran. Great lesson in Star Wars. Yes. The ongoing relentless lesson in Star Wars is to look past the surface on people. They have greater depth, greater layers to them. There's the obvious story with Darth Vader, the heroic character who gets worse and worse and becomes the villain, extremely bad villain. And at the end, Luke is getting ready to face him and saying, I can't kill Darth Vader. And Ben, who is fairly hopeless, says, then the Emperor has already won. Ben thinks just Vader has to be killed. Luke thinks there's more to it. He doesn't think that's the only way to do it. He thinks this person has something in him. And Luke proves to be right. But not just that, characters all throughout the story. The damsel in distress, she takes over her own rescue. The rugged smuggler who'd never stick his neck out for anybody else, he runs in to be the cavalry to back up Luke at the end. Yeah. He risked freezing to death to go save him in the next movie. The big scary monster who you're told he's going to rip arms out of people left and right. We never see Chewbacca rip off any arms. When C-3PO goes missing, who notices and goes looking for him? Chewbacca. Who tries to put him back together? Chewbacca is actually, oddly enough, for all his scariness and growling, he's one of the most nurturing characters in the whole thing. Who are the deadliest killers? The teddy bears.
I swear we could go on all day, but sadly we have to go.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
We've got to talk again. This is fun.
Yeah, I know.
I have a good time, Carlos.
Me too. It's been wonderful meeting you. Thank you very
Wonderful
much.
meeting you.
Señores, damas y caballeros, este fue el doctor Travis Langley, que nos acaba de acompañar el día de hoy. Compren su libro, son muy fáciles de conseguir a través de Amazon, a través de Barnes & Noble, Books A Million y muchísimos otros lugares más. Obviamente, el video pondré abajo todos los lugares donde lo pueden conseguir y esperemos que podamos volver a hablar. Es a pleasure talking to you. Nice meeting you.
Enjoy
See you
it.
later. Señores, no dejen de escuchar ComicMania todos los miércoles a las 5:30 a través de tu radioonline.com.mx. Hasta luego.
All right.
Everything is